Welcome again, identity management experts, to the second part of the video around account definitions and IT operation data. In this video, in difference to the first one, I want to show you only practical stuff. We will step through an exercise that shows you how to create account definitions and to use them to create two different account types. And we will as well see how to use IT operation data. Please follow me to the screen and have fun now with that video. In theory, it's just gray knowledge without any colored example. And in this colored example here, we want to show you how to use these account definitions and automation levels in IT data best. Therefore, we want to implement the following. On the right side, you see our Active Directory domain called IAM. In this specific Active Directory domain, we want to implement two kinds of accounts, which are the admin account and the standard user account. Both of them will depend on a specific account definitions built for. Additional to this, we want as well to link an account that already exists in Active Directory in addition to the person object, just without using any automation level. Our automation level, as well then the IT data, should be configured for the account definitions we have defined before, and we want to configure all of this to show you as many functionality as possible. At the end, we will perform the following steps. First, we will define a new account definition named admin. Then we will assign IT operation data, different AD containers. Before we can do that, we will have to add a IT data mapping. And we will create an assigned automation level, and our last step will be to consider these, that means to implement these in our existing templates. Before we want to start with the new features, we should have a short look on old stuff like configuration parameters. Remember, in version 6 there was a lot of configuration parameters handling IT data, for example. If we step in Designer, configuration parameter in the base data section, and we have a look on the configuration parameter as version 6 expert, you immediately see that there are less configuration parameters underneath of Active Directory than before. This is good because we get rid of some of these configuration parameters. Let me say we are down to 450 configuration parameters in version 7, in difference to 750 in version 6. This makes the whole thing hopefully a little bit more simple than before. What you cannot see here are any configuration parameters configuring IT data. For example, there is no Active Directory container parameter, no home server, no profile server, and so on in the configuration parameters section. Left are parameters like, for example, person auto default. Person auto default, it's an important configuration parameter to map person objects to Active Directory accounts. Person auto default itself configures what happens if somebody creates a new Active Directory account in the identity manager. That means using the manager tool to create a new Active Directory account. Like it is configured, and you can see that here, automatically an according person object will be created. There are some other ways to handle that as well. For example, I can do nothing, then only the Active Directory account will be created. I can search and create. That means the system tries to use a condition to find an according person object, and if it's not possible to get one, he will create one. Or it is able to search only. Whatever you configure, this is always used only if there's a new account object created in the identity manager. Additionally to that, a similar parameter exists, which is the person auto full sync parameter. Person auto full sync, it's the one that is used if the synchronization process creates accounts. For example, there are some accounts on the outer side, that means in Active Directory. You synchronize the complete set of data, some new Active Directory accounts gets inserted into the database, and now what should happen with person objects? Again, we have the options no, that means nothing. Create, that means a new person object will be created. Search and create means first it will be searched, and if there is no result, it will be created. And at the end, only be searched. This is configured to search and create, which makes perfectly sense because if there's an according person object, it will be only assigned, and if there's no according person object, one will be created. Very new in version 7 as well, it's the parameter person auto disabled accounts. If this parameter is set, then automatically each disabled account only will be assigned to an according person object. If it's not set, Then, if there is something configured like an auto assignment of account definitions, which are the new account resources, this will happen. Last but not least, important as well, and exists in version 6 as well, it's the person update parameter. Person update parameter configures the direction of the data flow between person objects and Active Directory account objects. Please remember, in identity management, the identity management always drives the target system. That means the person object drives the account object. In some cases of installation, for example, if you want to install an Active Directory edition or sometimes a data governance edition, it makes sense to say Active Directory is the main source and drives the identity management system. In these cases, person update is enabled. In all other cases, it is disabled, and like it is the rule, the identity management drives the target system. Repeating what we have heard, two things to know. First of all, IT data cannot any longer be configured in the configuration parameter section, and we have the typical standard mapping configuration parameters like before, and in addition, one we have named person auto disabled accounts. One very last thing to know before we can start with account definitions and IT operation data, and this is where we can configure the criteria to map person objects and accounts. Therefore, I'm in the manager, and in the manager there's my Active Directory section, in the Active Directory section the domain, and on the domain there's a task that is called Define Search Criteria for Employee. If I click on that, I see here a wizard, and that wizard tells me that out of the box, the central account out of the person object has to match to the CN of my Active Directory account, and if that is not correct, then the central account should match to the SEM account name of my Active Directory object. If one of these conditions is true, then an account object could be assigned to a person object. If not, depending on the configuration parameters we have seen before, a person object will be created or nothing will happen. First thing to start with after we made all the prerequisites is to create an account definition and a new automation level. Therefore, I'm in the manager, and in the manager, in the entitlement section, there is account definitions, and out of the box there is no account definition. This account definition you can see here is an account definition I created together with a domain. You see that is the account definition for a standard user account, but please remember my exercise. In addition to that, I want to be able to get an admin account as well. So I right-click the fields, say New, and define an admin account for Active Directory domain EIM. The table that is according to that specific account resource, it's an AD account. I can use any other target system as well if you want to, but our example, it's pointing on Active Directory, so AD account. There could be a number of domains. I will select the only domain that exists in the system right now, which is IAM. And the level of automation I want to assign, it's full managed or unmanaged. And for now I chose full managed. The reason for that is I don't have that admin level I want to use. Last but not least, I can have a service item if I want to make this account definition requestable. I can add a resource type, a risk index, a description, and I can as well configure how accounts should react on temporary deactivation or complete deactivation. I save that object for now. There is now a second account resource for this specific target system. Please see the first account resource, which was the standard user account. If I step into this, you will see it is the same ADS account table and the same domain. So with that specific one I have created right now, I have the second account resource for the same domain. And what is missing now, it's the right automation level, and this is the next step to create. Therefore, I open the basic configuration data. I step to my levels of automation. I can see full managed and unmanaged. These are the two levels out of the box. Right click again and tell the system level of automation should be admin. And this time I can as well define some properties. First, after I added something to the description, I can define what should happen together with the IT data. Should IT data every time correct something? Or should they do never something? Or should they do initially something? In my case, I choose always, because if I define IT data, this IT data, it's important. And then in the next steps, I can configure the inheritance behavior on permanent or temporary disabled account and how to handle security risks. These are all the checkboxes over here, and because I don't want to configure something for that specific feature, I take the default. I save my level of automation. Now there is a third admin level, and remember, our first job was to define an account definition of type admin. Now I stepped this account definition and turned the level of automation from full manage, what was configured before, to admin, and this is now my new level of automation for admin accounts. After this, I have two objects now. An account definition, this is responsible to getting an account, and a level of automation that helps me to find the right way to calculate IT data or data later on for that specific account using the automation level. Now a short look into the data structure. First of all, the automation level that is stored in TSB behavior. You can see full managed and unmanaged out of the box, and you see as well our admin level here. Not many properties to set. That is exactly what is on the master data page as well. The new managed level, now it's the admin managed level. If I select it, here it is. And the last thing we have inserted is the account definition. The account definition, it's part of TSB account definition. Here we are. There is my admin account definition. You can see it here. And it may be of interest that as well on the account definition, 10 custom properties are defined that may help sometimes if a specific kind of additional information have to be transferred. The next step I'd like to do is to map my IT operation data. And every time, if the whole thing is a little bit more complex and if there are more features than I can see, it is a good idea to hold in a bit and think what I want to do. What I want to do is the following. There are two account definitions, the standard user account definition and the admin account definition. Both of them should get different IT data. The standard user account should get a UID ADS container depending on the department and a home server depending on the location. My admin account don't need any home server, but he will get an AD container, but this AD container will be a fixed value, especially because all admin accounts in my Active Directory are stored in one single container. Knowing that, I can start my implementation. If you want to do the same, it is not really a good idea to have your first thoughts about it just before you start the implementation. In a project, you will just do what the fine concept will tell you, and hopefully the fine concept was written by yourself some couple of weeks ago. Now let's start. To do so, I move first to the admin account. Here we are. On the admin account, I hit on Edit IT Operation Data Mapping. Here we are. Here I need a new IT data, and I define for the column Active Directory account, that is what we are talking about, UID ADS container, a data mapping for the admin account, and I can select whatever I'd like now out of this source container. For example, department, because that will be the same thing for the standard user account. Now I need the default value. My default value is now the value of the fixed container for admin accounts. And I take the container admin. Here we are. Very new in version 7 now is that the complete IT data mapping using the primary department can be suppressed if I check the box always use default value. That speeds up any calculation of IT data, and it configures the behavior that always if I create an admin account, just the default is used, and the complete stuff that stands here in source department, it's now grayed out, which means it will never be used. I don't need any home server because that was the plan. Now I save my work and step to the standard user account. Standard user account has the same property, Edit IP Operational Data Mapping. Here we are. I add the first mapping. Again, I select the container. Here we are. This time it's primary department, exactly what I want to do for the AD container. And as a default, I choose the standard users container of the Active Directory. This time I don't check the box, always use the default, which means IT data comes from the department. And if there is nothing configured and on the parent there's as well nothing configured, then automatically he will take the user's container. But this time I check the box notify when applying the default so that an IDM admin gets the notification there is a default used, please now move the user to the right container. And for sure, start configuring your IT data that was missing. That is the first thing. I add the second one. Remember, there was something like we named the home server. This time, ADS account home server. Here we are. And it should be depending on the location, so primary location. And I select here one of my servers from the list. For example, I take my server IMSO2. I don't want to use the default all the time, so I don't check the first box, but the notification box makes sense again. Last but not least, I have to save that. And now you can see here two IT data configured just for this standard user account. And you can as well see just one IT data mapping configured here for that ADS container of the admin account. These are the mappings. And all of these mappings will have defaults. Because of that, I can start working now. But to be honest, much better it is first to get the IT data configured so that the default is only used if my choice was the checkbox always use default value. After I have defined my IT data mapping, I have now to manage my IT data. And therefore I step to the organization. On the organization, I drill down here my department structure, hierarchical view, accounting and finance, accounting Australia. I have to do that at the end for every of my departments and for every of my locations. But for that small example, I just will configure one department, which is Australia. I select Australia. I hit on Edit IT Operation Data. And here I have to configure, please remember my exercise, the department. Therefore, I hit on Add a new value. I select from the box Table TSB account definition because I want to make it depending on an account definition. I select from the box the according account definition. I don't need any configuration for the admin account. Remember, the admin account is configured with a default value. But I need something for the standard user account, so I select the standard user account. Then I need the column, which is the AD container. Here it is. And I want to select the AD container for that specific department named Australia here. Therefore, I just go to the value, expand the box and say, in my company structure, the accounting container will be the right container for people who are in accounting, and it doesn't matter in which part of accounting they are. For that specific exercise, I can as well use the accounting container and don't configure all the container underneath, because the way IT data it's get is that it looks on the Australian container. If there's nothing configured, it looks on the parent, and the parent until it is up to the root node of the structure. And if there is as well nothing configured, then it will take the default. But to be honest, because we don't want to have too many iterations here to step up, it is always a good idea to configure or to manage the ID data properly for every of these nodes. This is now my configured value, and the next step to do is to do the same for the home server. Last thing I should forget is to save my changes. So after having defined this IT operation data for the ADS container, I have to define a second one. And the second one is for my home server, but unfortunately I cannot do that here, and the reason for that is I'm in the department structure, I'm in Australia, and what I want to do is I want to define that operational data mapping for the location. Remember, the location is containing my home server and profile server properties. Knowing this, I close here my department structure, I open the location structure, hierarchical view, and according to my department, I take the two addresses I have here for Australia, and for both of them, I configured the same IT operation data. So I start here with the first one, add operation data. I will do that for the account definition as we have defined that. It is my standard user account, and I will add here an account definition for the home server. And the value for that home server should be my home server 3. And the same thing after I stored the first one, it's to do for the second one. IT operating data. Add a new one. Get that for the account definition. Standard user account. There for the field home server. And number 3. Here we are. And saved. So, and with the help of this, I then will get with the right location the right home server.